Okay, so it being on or about 6:30 and seeing that we have a quorum, I'm going to open the
This meeting is being recorded.
of August 2nd, 2021 of the Easton Conservation Commission. In keeping with the ongoing emergency order from Governor Baker to limit gatherings and maximize social distancing under legislation passed by address remote board meetings during the emergency declaration, this meeting will be conducted over Zoom. Attendance by board commission members will be remote, and remote attendance will count towards quorum. The meeting will be broadcast live and recorded on ECAT. Participants and the public can participate by raising their hand, and the hearing will be conducted and brought forth, bring the applicant and their representative forward as necessary. Please note that as a reminder, in order to maintain efficiency during these remote meetings, each hearing is limited to 15 minutes unless the chair authorizes additional time. After 15 minutes, the chair will determine if further discussion is required or if all topics have been sufficiently covered. The applicants, commissioners, and any public contributing comments are asked to remain focused and concise in their presentations and discussions. Commissioners are expected to have reviewed permit materials prior to the hearing to contribute to maintaining an efficient discussion. Additionally, after the applicant's presentation, the chair will request the agent provide a brief summary of the staff report so the commission is aware of the issues identified by the agent and to help focus the discussion. As a reminder, any materials the commissioner, applicant, or member of the public presents during the public hearing that is not already part of the public permit records should be provided by email to the principal clerk and agent following the meeting so it can be retained as part of the public record. Now, in order to establish quorum and identify members of the commission to the public, we are going to roll call. Rory Caulfels.
And Carol.
Carol Lundeen.
Mike Spadia.
Carol, is your video off or is it going to be on?
It's off at this second.
Okay. So you'll turn it on at some point soon?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you.
Yep. I think the only other thing is please note that the commission delegated signature authority to the environmental planner, assistant planning director for all decisions issued during the duration of the emergency. We will maintain that as part of our ongoing remote meeting capabilities. And so before we start, I just want to welcome Jennifer Carlino, who is our new agent, and I'm really looking forward to having her be part of our team. So welcome, Jen.
Thank you.
How was your first week? You survived okay? Excellent.
Yes, with some help from Andrea. That was very nice to do the site inspections together.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Andrea, as well, of course.
Yes.
So just one issue here that anybody who is, I believe that one of the, anybody who has any issue with the, an item on the agenda for Goodspeed Estates minor mod, that's going to get continued. So that's going to be way down the hearing. I don't want you hanging around for that. So that it will get continued at the request of the applicant. So I just wanted to put that on the schedule. So first up is a couple of continued hearings. One is 314 Center Street. We had the hearing. We opened it a few meetings ago, and we've actually just been waiting for a DEP file number so we can close this and vote on it. And so why don't we start with 314 Center Street. This is a continued hearing for construction of retaining wall, stairs, and walkway.
Yeah, I'm here.
Great. Nice to see you. How are you?
Good, and you?
Good. So I don't think we need another presentation here. We were all present or were able to view the hearing.
Good.
So do we have any other questions before we close the hearing? No? Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
The invasive plant management plan. There's a couple of things about it that I think deserve tidying it up to make it
Okay.
more to the benefit of the public. I don't have it in front of me, but I can in a moment. One of them had to do with, it talks about bittersweet mostly, and
Mhm.
it says something about properly disposing of the detritus.
Mhm.
And I'd like to see in an invasive plant management plan, like what are the proper ways of disposing of that detritus? I think that's a gap there that's really important. The state of Connecticut has a very detailed list of invasive plants and how to properly dispose of each type. And I think that's a meaningful gap in this particular plan. Number two, there may have been maybe it was a typo. I hope it was. I think it probably was. There was something about cutting bittersweet at 3 feet, but the way that sentence or bullet point was written, the word out was used rather than what I think was appropriate, which was about 3 feet rather than cut out 3 feet. So I think that should be cleaned up. And the other thing is there's quite a bit of other exotic invasive plants there. And the only one that I noticed in the plan was bittersweet. There is glossy buckthorn there, there's common buckthorn there, there's honeysuckle there, the type with a hollow stem. And if I understand right, any honeysuckle with hollow stem is an exotic invasive species. So I think there are some gaps there that the public would want to have cleaned up.
So I would be obligated to treat every invasive species within my management plan, not just what we're going to be working around. So I understand this correctly? Because even that just seems a little excessive to get, something that should have been probably addressed when this house was turned over, that the retaining wall didn't exist anymore according to the plan, and that the wetland boundaries should be readdressed as well, because it's including forsythia, which we all know is not a wetland plant, but yet we're putting all this time and effort into getting just a wall or a corrective action approved, and it seems exceedingly difficult. So do I have to do my invasive management plan to include every invasive species within that wetland area? And how far does that encompass? Entire property?
Commissioner Lundin?
That's a good question. That's up for us to discuss.
Okay, so as a point of discussion, I think the magnitude of the proposed plan is sufficient to meet the public interest in scale to the request being made. I think that the request itself to put in this retaining wall has some public benefit as well to decrease any erosion into the wetland as well. So I believe that the applicant has put forth, maybe there's some minor corrections that need to be made to the plan, but I don't think we need to expand the invasive management plan from my standpoint. Any other commissioners? You're on mute or can't hear you, Ben.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, that's good.
All right. So my impression was that during the first presentation, this applicant put together, a pretty comprehensive plan considering the scope of the project. So I'm okay to move forward with what's been proposed.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see all the invasives taken care of. I mean, for himself, I think it's a lot to ask. It's something that you like to do on your own. That's fantastic, just to help and be a part of it. But I think it's a lot to ask.
Well, absolutely something we would consider once this project is kind of completed, and then move on
only
to another
enhancing.
project, But yeah, we plan on doing lots of improvements, or hopefully to benefit not only just ourselves, but our neighbors and our community. So looking forward to more of these meetings.
Awesome.
Okay. So I think from a commission standpoint, we probably think that the proposed management is appropriate for the scope. So I don't know if you want to make some proposed changes to the specific plan that's in front of us, Carol, or you want to let it stand as is?
Sure, thank you for asking. The invasive plant management plan was, it has a date of mid-April in it of this year. And I think the first action is suggested to be done in the fall. That's something that I disagree with, because those plants now have, if they're in a state where they're entering a reproductive phase with ripening berries. And I would like to see those. I mean, if this action had been taken in April, it would have been timely. But to wait until the fall, I think misses the point of timely action on this invasive plant this year. So I would prefer to see that action taken sooner rather than later, before the berries ripen and are spread.
Okay,
Is that something you're amenable, Mr. Clifford?
yes.
Okay.
Thank you. And then how do we tidy up about disposing of the?
So, Mr. Clifford, you've Andrea, you're on mute.
You're on mute.
I don't mean to interrupt you, Rory, but I do have a recommendation for how to handle that when the commission discussion is over.
Okay. Well, I'd be happy to get some feedback from Jen or Andrea or Stephen. As I understand it, you've had some experience doing this invasive management
Yes,
stuff.
I have.
So what would you propose is proper disposal of the material?
Well, at this point, we have our own disposal area, and we do documented disposal of certain invasives, and we also sometimes just collect it and we burn it.
So if I may ask, how do you, the part of the life cycle in which these plants are harvested or managed has a lot to do with the success of, making a pile and maybe later burning them. So
Jen or Andrea, any feedback on the difference of opinion here in disposal of this material?
I would recommend that the management plan be reviewed and approved by the environmental planner with the opportunity to make field inspections and field modifications. That once he knows when he's doing it, then the disposal could be discussed at that point. Clearly, Carol is absolutely right. You don't want the berries to spread.
Right.
Other
Okay.
than that, I just wanted to say that another big benefit of this project from last meeting was the drainage improvements off of the house and the driveway. And that shouldn't be overlooked.
Okay. Any other comments from the commission? So seeing none, any other comments from either Jen or Andrea?
I have recommended conditions in the staff report. It's item number 10 with the modification on the field modifications by the environmental planner.
Do we have any comments from the public on 314 Center Street? Seeing none, Stephen, I assume you want us to close the hearing?
Sure,
So
that'd be great.
yeah, so I'm going to make a motion to close the hearing, issue a permit for work and order conditions, noting the conditions in the staff report number 10. Additionally, an additional condition allow the environmental planner for field inspections and field modifications of the invasive management plan.
Beatty, second.
Roll call vote, Caulfield's aye.
Carol, I.
Lundin, aye.
Beatty, aye.
Thank you very much, Mr. Clifford. We're all set.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Okay, so 560 Foundry, they've requested a continuance. Is that correct? So I make a motion to continue 560 Foundry Street to August 23rd, 2021.
Lundin, second.
Roll call vote, Caulfield's aye.
Carol, I.
Lundin, aye.
Beatty, aye.
Next up is 104, 106 Elm Street. This is a request for determination of applicability for a tennis court relocation. This is under Easton bylaws, not a state. Permit number 1702. Oh, Peter, thank goodness. You made my day. Peter Lyons from Collins Engineering. Peter, you're up.
Good evening, everyone. You hear me?
Absolutely, yeah.
Awesome. First off, I guess I'd like to introduce myself to Jen. I work with Collins Engineering. We do a bunch of work in town. Welcome to the commission. We got a couple things on tonight that you'll be hearing from me from. So we'll start with 104 Elm Street. This is a RDA for a relocation of an existing tennis court in a residential property. This is a large lot off of Elm Street with wetlands pretty much all around the site, an existing pond. Sorry, I'll bring up the screen. I thought I already did it. Can we see the plan now?
Yes.
Okay, sorry for the delay there. So basically, overview of the site. Around the property lines, we have an existing stream that ends up running down towards Elm Street at the bottom of the plan. So we have riverfront area on site, and we also have bordering vegetated wetlands and their resource areas and buffers. Basically, the work is going to be done in the middle of the site. It's just outside 100 feet to the existing pond. The purple line is the existing tennis court location, and the red rectangle is our proposed area. The applicant's just looking to basically improve the existing area and to provide a drainage trench that will help with the runoff from the slightly enlarged court. We are moving it a little bit further away from the resource areas. However, we're trying to maintain an existing gravel driveway towards the back of the property. So this is the location we came up with. Our erosion control is going to wrap around the entire project down gradient towards the wetland. So the erosion control is as close as, looks like about 110 feet. On the southern portion here, and then 163 feet to the mean high line in the back of the property. This is all going on in existing lawn area or existing court. So no anticipated tree removal. I guess that's my presentation. Any questions on this project?
Jen or Andrea, you want to give us a summary of what we need to look at here?
Jen and I spoke before the meeting, and I was going to give the presentations tonight, but as Jen said, we walked all the properties together, and I conferred with her when I was finalizing the reports. So you'll get Jen front and center at the next meeting. And I certainly hope that if I miss anything, she will bring it up. Let me say at the beginning of the public hearings that all abutter notifications for all applications have been received before the hearings open tonight. Let me also say that the request for determination is filed under both the state and local bylaw. A request for determination in this case asked if the boundaries were accurate for the wetlands, as well as whether or not the work was within the area. When it comes to the type of wetlands, the work is going to be outside of any state resource areas. And so it's a negative determination that's different from the local permit. Let me bring those resource areas to your attention. So the intermittent stream along the north-south, along the top of the project site is intermittent, but as you see a stream coming from top to bottom is Whitman's Brook, and that's perennial. The pond is a man-made pond, and the perennial stream intersects it, and at the top and then at the bottom there is a stream that exits inside this BVW and before it comes back to join Whitman's Brook. So according to the local bylaw, a pond that has an inlet and an outlet is considered an inline pond and does have a local riverfront zone. But according to the state, only the perennial streams have riverfront areas, and that riverfront stops when it enters into a pond. So the work there is a small fringe of BVW along the edge of the pond and then expands to the north of it and to the south of it. The work is actually going to be greater than 100 feet from the BVW and inside the riverfront zone. So the decision you're making is Jen and I are only confirming that portion of the wetland line identified in the report that is closest to this work area. Also, the work area is in a very level grass area, so the erosion control is really acting as a limit of work to keep the project contained, but isn't expected to have any real sedimentation potential to enter the pond area. I have conditions for the local negative determination identified in the staff report. If you'd like me to go through them, I can, but I think the resource areas was probably the most important issue.
Okay, I don't have any questions. Any commissioners have a question for the applicant? Any public comment for 104, 106 Elm Street? Sorry, I'm just.
No hands raised.
No hands raised. So, so Peter, I assume we're going to close here.
Yes, please.
Okay, so I make a motion to close the hearing and issue a negative determination of applicability for 104, 106 Elm Street, noting the conditions in the staff report. Straw wattles should be staked in place prior to any excavation and be respected as a limit of work. All materials should be properly disposed off-site. Landscape debris and play equipment shall be removed from the wetlands between P12 and WFB5. Only a portion of the wetland boundary is confirmed. BVW flags WF103 to WF105 and WFB1 to WFB8, and pond bank flags P1 through P12.
80 second.
Roll call vote. Caulfield's aye.
Carol, I.
Lundin, aye.
80 aye.
Okay. next up is 46 Mill Street. Now, just as a bit of housekeeping here, we don't have the DEP number on this. Okay. Did we get any of the DEP numbers we were waiting on? Oh my.
Tish, did we get any of them? Can you confirm? I didn't see them as of today.
Okay, just builds up our backlog. So 46 Mill Street is a notice of intent for a septic repair slash upgrade. I believe this is another Collins Engineering.
Yes, it is.
So just introduce yourself for the record again, and we'll.
Sure. For the record, again, Peter Lyons with Collins Engineering Group, representing the homeowner for a notice of intent for a septic repair. I'm trying to share my screen again. Can we see that now?
Yep. Awesome.
So this is a pretty straightforward septic repair. It's at the corner of Mill Street and Peabody Drive. Resource areas are a BVW across from Mill Street and another BVW and a mean high line across from Peabody Drive. There is no on-site wetlands. We're just dealing with the buffer zones. Obviously, we have streets between the project and the resource areas. Our scope of work, we're basically looking to replace the existing system, which is situated out back between the in-ground pool and the house. We're doing a gravity septic system, so a single tank and a leaching field off the side of the house. The grading over here will be coming up pretty significantly due to the high groundwater on the site. As far as alternatives, you know, the area out the back, this is a currently existing low area. For one, from a septic design, we wouldn't be able to do a gravity design out back. We'd have to pump it over there. Secondly, it's identified as a land subject to flooding. So we try not to really alter the water flow. You know, it's currently got a place to go without flooding out onto the street or to the abutters. So that's going to keep that as the low area, and we're really not changing the drainage patterns much, but everything's still going to be directed from the house over existing lawn and then down through the lawn before it makes its way to Peabody Drive. We have erosion control proposed around the whole project, down gradient from the work, including the protection of existing catch basins and drainage structures on the road. So work limits are, what do we got? Distance wise, I don't know. The leaching field, the work will be as close as, looks like 86 feet to the mean high and the BVW line. And that's to maintain a 20-foot minimum setback to the house foundation. So that's our presentation. Any questions from the commission?
So staff report.
Yes, just to give context for this project, this is 46 Mill. It's in the Canoe River ACEC. It is consistent with the simplified septic repair policy. The two things I don't think, a couple things that I don't think Peter noted in the staff report. Over by the house where the septic is going to be installed, there is a drainage pipe, roof drainage pipe that has to be addressed as part of this work. I imagine he can take care of that. The other thing is that the limit of work extends into the road right of way. So he's going to need town approval for that. And then land septic flooding down in the back of the property. That is a term that is, that's a term for a wetland that is regulated. And what we saw, Jen and I, was a low area with lawn and no soils to suggest. I appreciate that they're holding it as a drainage area, but we didn't identify it as a wetland area specifically. The only conditions, the project has its wetland notes, its erosion control notes right on the plan that they give to the contractor. So other than addressing the roof runoff and seeking town approval, the no dumping in the wetlands as a perpetual condition.
I have no questions. Anybody else? Okay, any public comment, 46 Mill Street? Seeing none, Peter, I assume we want to, oh, well, we have to continue. Almost caught myself there. Because we don't have a DEP number. So the one thing I just, from our standpoint, from a business standpoint, a board business standpoint, if you've got a question, I really would want it addressed now. The next hearing available after we get the number, I'd like to just get it on the agenda, vote, close and vote, so that we don't have to have another hearing. This seems like a very straightforward, so if there's questions, let's try and get them on the table right now. If not, I'm gonna I might call you out a little bit saying you had an opportunity last time. So I can only imagine what we literally have six hearings tonight without DEP numbers on top of what we're going to do next time. So, and these were all new. So it's a very busy time of year. So I can only imagine the 23rd is going to be another one of these long meetings. And so please, I'm asking you, hold yourself to that next meeting. So Peter, we're gonna continue this to next meeting. I don't think there's any issues here. I don't have any questions. You didn't hear one question from any of us. Obviously, the issues that Andrea raised about town approval and taking care of the drainage, or the roof drainage pipe. I think that's all something you guys will take care of. But we'll leave it at that. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you.
So make a motion to continue 46 Mill Street to August 23rd, 2021.
Spady, second.
Roll call vote. Caulfield's aye.
Carol, aye.
Lundy night.
Spady, aye.
Okay, next up is 106 Massapog Ave. This is a notice of intent for residential septic repair / upgrade. Again, waiting for the DEP number. Peter.
Yeah, this one's me again. I'll bring up the plan. Confirm we can see it.
Yep.
Great. Where are we? This is again, Peter Lyons with Collins Engineering, here with a notice of intent for a septic repair representing the homeowner at 106 Massapog Avenue. Quick overview of the site. We have a BVW that wraps around the rear property line and up the southeastern side of the property, ending right here at flag 1. We also have a flood zone off-site to the rear of the property. The site itself is out of the flood zone. Therefore, all of the work is outside of the flood zone. What we're doing out here is it's a failed septic system. Current system is a leaching pit in a field in the backyard. We're going to relocate the leaching field up as far away from the resource area as possible, which puts it right tucked behind the existing garage. We will be doing a pump system out here. So there'll be 2 tanks behind the house and then a force main pumping it up to an elevated leaching bed. We are doing all this work in existing lawn. There's going to be no tree removal or vegetation removal. we provide a soil stockpile area outside the 100-foot buffer, right at the end of the driveway. And we have erosion control wrapping around the project. That gets as close as 15 feet to flag number 1 to accommodate the tanks and the grading for the tanks. So additionally, we have conservation posts proposed in 6 locations along the existing tree line, all within the limits of the property. We have our standard 8-inch straw wattle, erosion control detail, dewatering detail, silt sacks in the catch basins on Massapog Avenue. What else? Our standard erosion control notes, keep it a clean site. I won't read them all. That's about it. Any questions from the commission?
So staff report.
Yes, this is also around the corner. It's also in the Canoe River ACEC. According to GIS, the flood zone comes up almost as far as the shed. So I wonder if the engineer might take the time to put the flood zone on the plan accurately. It's probably closer to where Paul identified it. This is according to the assessor's records, the house was built in the 1950s, so the lawn within the inner 50-foot buffer zone is considered pre-disturbed according to the local regulations. There is debris in the along the inside the 50-foot buffer adjacent to the wetlands that should be removed as part of this project.
Okay. Peter, so the field is going to be elevated. What's the top of this? What's going to be the top of that elevation? I know I see a line there at 176, but is that the top?
Yeah, the proposed grading will be 176.1 is the top of the system. So you'll be coming up 2.5
feet. Yeah, about 2.5 feet.
Yeah. Yep. Knee high to waist high, depending where you're standing or how tall your knees are.
Yeah, not too bad. Yeah, I think that the comment about there's certainly enough space on this property to find a different space to put their yard debris, so that should get taken care of.
Sure.
And I think putting the floodplain on here just to have that be an issue, have that be a non-issue, is probably, since we're continuing, probably have you do that for the next one.
Yeah, if I could just speak to regarding that. I mean,
sure.
For the flood zone, there was a little discrepancy. We do GPS surveys, so our elevations and stuff are all real. The flood zone is described as elevation 162, which doesn't even occur on the site. So I spoke with our land surveyor, and without really doing a detailed analysis, we're basically just showing it off the site.
Yeah, I guess I'm okay with that if that's the explanation.
Yeah, I mean,
if it's 162 is the floodplain, then and you've already got spot markings on this site at 172. Like you said, it's off-site. So
yeah, and generally, honestly, there's not that much discrepancy. Typically, if they say it's 162, it works pretty well with our contours. So the backstory is something's a little messed up elevation-wise out there. However, either way, the site is mostly out of the flood zone, and the work is definitely outside of the flood zone. There's no flooding risk in the areas that we're doing the work.
Yeah, I think the comment could have been more along the lines of whether or not that shed is sitting in the flood zone. So it's potential that as part of the conditions for this, we would require that the shed be relocated outside of the flood zone. So I think that's how I interpreted the comment, to be honest. So
I didn't see your note on the plan that identified the elevation of the flood zone. I apologize.
So I think we're good on that comment then, Peter. So
Okay, great.
I'll second that off my list.
Okay.
Anybody other comments from any of the commissioners? Okay. Seeing none, any public comment for 106 Massapog? Okay, so seeing none, we're gonna have to continue this as the other one, Peter.
Yep.
Motion to continue 106 Massapog to our August 23rd, 2021 meeting.
82nd.
Roll call vote. Caulfield's aye.
Carol, I.
Lundin, aye.
80, aye.
Okay. Peter, normally I might consider taking you out of order, but I think that I think I want to get these other ones done quickly, and then we get to yours. Yours are going to take a little bit longer, so I'd rather do that if you don't mind.
Not a problem. I'll take a little break and be right back with you.
Thanks, Peter.
Thank you.
Next up is 19 Rollins Road. This is a notice of intent for a septic repair / upgrade.
And I see somebody from JDE coming up. Patrick? And is there anybody else that I should bring up, Patrick?
Nope, just me.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, there we go.
Okay, Patrick, welcome.
How are you all doing tonight? Hi, Jen.
You want to just introduce yourself for the record, and then we can
Sure.
give us a
Jack
presentation.
Carrara from Jacobs Driscoll Engineering, representing the Jacqueline Roy of 19 Rollins Road for a septic system repair.
Okay.
And give me 1 second, I will get a plan up for you. Oh boy.
While he's taking that moment, I just want to remind the commissioners that when a application is submitted that's complete, we only have 21 days to schedule the hearing. So that's how you ended up with so many no DEP numbers. We had to get them onto this hearing.
Okay, everybody see that now?
Yep.
All right. Zoom in a little bit on the area we're talking about. Okay, so this is the existing dwelling at 19 Rollins Road. As you can see, our resource areas are bordering vegetated wetlands, which basically wrap around the entire property from the west to the south, back up towards the north again, and then actually off the plan across the northern side of the abutting property. House is constructed kind of right in the middle of the lot. Also associated with the wetland are a series of drainage ditches, which are classified as streams in the town of Easton. So we have them delineated in the riverfront area. Doesn't actually show up because the entire lot is within it. So the red line represents a 50-foot buffer from the wetland. We've taken measures to keep all of the septic components outside that 50-foot buffer. So a new 1,500 gallon, this is actually a 1,300 gallon singular septic tank, a 1,500 gallon pump chamber, and then we are using a drip irrigation system fashioned in a parallelogram to fit within the property line setbacks and outside that 50-foot buffer. So we're taking advantage of some IA technology here with the purpose of minimizing the footprint of the system and also to minimize any grading. So we have, as you can see, there's just one 99 contour, which wraps around the back edge of the system and ties right into an existing 99. So that's the extent of the grading on the site. We have the erosion control barriers shown around the site, a dewatering area. Access will be through the existing paved driveway up beside the garage to get into that backyard area. This is all established lawn, so we're not removing any trees or anything. And I'll be happy to answer any questions if I can.
Staff report.
Yes, this project is also in the Canoe River ACEC. adjacent to Wheaton Farm on the other side of town. The house was built in 96. The wetland lines look accurate. The house was built in 96, and there was an order of conditions issued for the project with no certificate of compliance. I was unable to locate the plan for the approval before this meeting, but I question whether or not I'd like to ask the applicant to review the records to find out if there is a certificate of compliance for this project, or to submit a request for a certificate. I question the extent of lawn on the property. The project is not consistent with the simplified septic system review for a very positive reason. They're actually in a zone 2 of the public water supply, and therefore the alternative advanced treatment system is required by the Board of Health rules. So looks like it's, so other than questioning on-site conditions, which also include rather large landscape debris piles inside the wetland and at the banks of the stream. So I do recommend the applicant look for another place for his composting, because this is the ACEC Canoe River, which one of the main purposes of the Canoe River designation at the state level was the quantity and quality of the groundwater supply. So even though disposal of landscape debris is common at this board, it's really important over here. So that's it. I recommend no dumping in the wetland once he gets rid of what he has. And I do ask that you file a request for certificate of compliance in a timely way, or the commission make that a condition of the approval.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly would. I would expect they've got 3 weeks to figure that out. So
exactly.
I mean, they can either find the COC on file, or they can just submit another request, and we can take care of that. So
right, because here's the as-built plan right in front of us.
Exactly. Yeah.
okay. I think, Andrew, you addressed all the concerns. This is as the applicant pointed out, it's a very level backyard, so I'm not all that concerned about erosion or anything like that in this case. It is a nice, healthy lawn. I guess there's some question of whether or not that was authorized or not, but that's a whole different question. I think certainly the system is in the only place it could possibly be in to stay out of the buffer zones. So at least a 50-foot no disturb. So there is no other place to put it on this property. So any questions from other members of the commission? Carol?
Thank you. Andrew, you had mentioned the extent of the lawn, and you mentioned in your staff report, I'm reading it, number 6, it is unclear if the extent of lawn was approved within the 50-foot inner buffer zone. So just to be clear, that would be another thing we would want to look for.
That is the purpose of the certificate of compliance request.
So that's the main thing. Yeah. Okie dokie, that's it.
Anybody else, Mike or Ben?
Nothing for me on this one.
Okay. All set, Mike?
All good. Yep.
I just want to hear you talk. I talk all day long, and then I got to come here and talk for another couple hours. Any public comment for 19 Rollins Road? So once again, just as a reminder, let's address this certificate of compliance issue so that we understand what the order of conditions were and any any perpetual conditions. Just 1 second, Carol. And also cleaning up that landscape debris that's sitting inside the wetlands. That should get taken care of. And once again, we're going to have to continue this because we don't have a DEP number. Carol?
Right, thank you. Andrea, I'm sorry I didn't mention, call you about this earlier, but your comment number 3. I inspected the site on July 27th, the year 2921.
Yeah, that was a typo, an obvious typo, yeah.
So maybe in the next 3 weeks you could.
I don't know, I'm taking really good multivitamins these days.
Back to the future. That's good. Thank you.
Anything else? Okay, so Patrick, any questions?
No, and Andrew, I want to say we put our hands on a plan from the Board of Health on this one. I'll see if I can put my hands on it again. And if I can, we'll include that with the certificate of compliance request just for your own files.
Well, there's a certificate, there's a certificate of compliance from the Board of Health that everybody always gets because you can't flush your toilets without it. And then there's a certificate of compliance from the Conservation Commission, which doesn't get quite the same level of respect.
No, I'm talking, I think we actually had one of the original design plans. We had a copy of it.
Excellent, perfect.
Yeah, if I can put my hands on that, we'll make sure we get you a copy of that with the certificate of compliance request.
Okay, and then you can identify, having been at this site, you can identify whether or not the project that we see in 2021 is substantially compliant with what was approved at the time.
Yeah, if I remember right, there wasn't very much shown on the plan.
That I'm thinking the lawn was never approved, Patrick.
Okay. Any other questions? Make a motion to continue 19 Rollins Road to August 23rd, 2021.
Lundin, second.
Roll call vote, Caulfield's aye.
Carol, I.
Lundin, aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Patrick.
Great. Thanks a lot. Have a good night.
Next up is 33 Prospect Street. This is a notice of intent for a fence installation. Once again, we're waiting for the DEP number.
I'm bringing up the engineer and the landowner.
Yes, so, good evening. My name is Azue Toniro from ET Engineering. I am a registered professional land surveyor and a professional civil engineer in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. I believe the current owner of the subject
This meeting
land,
is being recorded.
Ms. Elise and Corey. Yeah, you guys can wave. You can unmute yourself if you wish to and introduce yourselves as well.
Guys, good evening.
So I am actually not in my office. I do have, I believe I can download the application through my email, but I have been advised that the commission has a screen sharing capability. Otherwise, it will take me a minute to download the information through my.
Thank you, Rory.
That's why I love this Conservation Commission.
Chairman's the best.
Amen to that. So, members of the commission and Jen, I haven't officially met you in person, but nice to meet you, at least virtually. And the new members. We have done numerous projects in the town of Easton for upwards of 30 years. This particular property that you have before you was owned and occupied by a Mr. Manuel Vicente, who I believe has since sold the property and moved on. as you may recall, there were several infractions by Mr. Vincenti, and that were put the property, if you will, on the commission's radar for quite some time. And so there was an enforcement action taken regarding the property. And then the commission allowed the work after we actually did some survey for the property to get the approval for the pool that was existing at the time. And then part of the enforcement action was a restoration of some of the BVW and isolated wetlands areas and work in the floodplain that was undertaken by or on behalf of Mr. Vincenti. So I believe there were Corey and there were Elise, part of their due diligence was to inquire of what would be required of them if they wanted to do anything on the property. So I think without even having met us at all, they actually did some research and recognized through speaking with Mrs. Stephanie Danielson that there are some wetlands resources on the property, and that any activity would require approval of the Conservation Commission. So to their credit, and I think that's very important to note. To their credit, they started off on a very, very positive note, and started off very well. So I think I appreciate that, because usually we engineers get put in a difficult situation after the fact, but they elected on their own to be proactive. What they want to accomplish here is the installation of a fence. They have 3 dogs, and they would like to contain the dogs within their property. And so if you look at those, the black boxes, you see the yellow, basically the gold line that runs along the perimeter of the patio, along the pool. Around the pool, you'll see a solid yellow gold line that terminates on the southeasterly end of the property along Prospect Street. And along that line, those blocks are part of the permanent wetlands markers that were required by the commission as part of making sure that Mr. Vincenti at the time did not encroach further and would have a physical barrier that demonstrates the outline of the usable space. So if you look at the dark line along the westerly side of the building that runs from Prospect Street northerly and then takes a little bit of a jog. Andrea, if you move that cursor, or Rory, it'll be the line that runs from you see the word that says variable on the street name? That's a solid black line that goes up north, and then there's a protrusion from that line to the east, but then continue north for a short distance after the easterly protrusion. It takes a left turn and then continues to the north. And that is where the solid yellow line then begins. That is an existing retaining wall that provides a physical barrier between the yard and the resource, as well as the perennial stream that is located to the west of the building, beyond the actual BVW line. So the fence installation runs along that yellow line, so that it will contain the area your dog will be. Much of the work is in the floodplain, but as you will note, the construction or installation of a fence will not obstruct the natural flow of stormwater, because we're elevating the fence. The solid portion of the fence will be 6 inches above the ground, so that you will not have, other than the posts for the fence, the corners of the fence, that will have very de minimis impact or displacement of soils. So there really wouldn't be a large-scale excavation work going on. But the beauty of this also, actually, it's not only does it help Elise and Corey establish the usable yard and contain their dogs, it also should give the commission, in my humble but well-founded opinion over the years, it will actually give the commission a good physical barrier to say, okay, we now know that not only do we have the physical wetlands markers, conservation markers, excuse me, but now you have a fence that will provide a visual barrier of where you've allowed the work to be undertaken and not extend beyond that. So I actually think unwittingly, Elise and Corey actually given the commission something that is helpful to the commission. So with that, I think, as my wife always told me, honey, you like to hear yourself talk yap all the time. So I'll zip it right now and then entertain any comments or questions. And then hopefully the commission will find it very, very attractive in terms of establishing a permanent visible barrier. I would note also that I believe I'm not going to put any words in her mouth, but I believe Ms. Langhauser and Jen, I have not identified your last name, so forgive me if I just say Jen or Jennifer, had actually done some site visits, and I know Ms. Langhauser actually was the one that was the front line with Mr. Vicente. I don't think you will have that issue here with Elise and Corey. I think the fact that they took the initiative to find out what they need to do speaks volumes. So I think you'll have a good marriage between the landowner, the present landowners, and the Conservation Commission, so that you people wouldn't be losing your hair and then end up like me.
So first of all, Azu, before I ask Andrea to give us a little bit of a staff report here, it is always a pleasure to have you before us. So I do appreciate it. And while I am happy to have you before us in a proactive manner on this property, in some ways this property, has quite a history, as you know. And you did a wonderful job getting Mr. Vicente the right plans in front of us. And so I do appreciate that. And you come with a great deal of respect for me. So I do want to just convey that to you. And it is always a pleasure to have you before us. You are, without a doubt, one of the most pleasant engineers we deal with. So I do appreciate that. So
thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate it.
So Andrea, anything from a staff report standpoint?
Yes, for those of you that weren't part of the fun known as enforcement at 33 Prospect, it is all, a lot of it is on the online permitize. It is in Hockomock Swamp ACEC, one of our two. The Conservation Commission owns the property to the north of the site, and it's mapped habitat back there. I certainly do agree that a enclosure will help the permanent markers be respected. But when Jen and I were out there on Wednesday, the landowners, God bless them, it was only their second day owning the house, very responsive to the issues, but we noticed that there is a garden area that was built up on the pool side, on the back side of the pool that extends into the flood zone. We noticed that the permanent markers were indeed allowed inside the isolated land subject to flooding, and not a good place for dogs to be running in a tight quarters. So we did speak, Jen and I did speak with the landowners and someone from Azu's office about possibly moving that section of the fence, granted where it is most constricted, closer out of the wetland area. And I believe Jen can speak to this, but there will be site inspection again before the next meeting to probably address those issues. Of note, again, not the new owners, but we did point out grass clippings, not just on the other side of the permanent marker, but perhaps even on conservation land, which they recognize needs to be addressed. We do have a wetland restoration plan for this property, and it was monitored. We did receive, it was constructed in October of 2020, and we got our first report after the fall inspection by Garrett Tunninson, and there were some things that needed to be addressed in that wetland restoration report. I do have that in my staff report, so the landowners can be aware that before the next restoration plan comes in, there's areas that shouldn't be mowed, and there are shrubs that should be replaced. So this is a good project to continue the conversations on. And the conditions are listed in the staff report unless Jennifer sees other things when she is out there. As a matter of fact, I don't have the conditions in this staff report. I was waiting for a revised plan.
Thank you. So I think that the one challenge here is this section of fence between these two trees. And part of this is because there is, Andrea says, there's a garden that was planted on the back side of this a pool area. It's visually lovely, okay, but it was unpermitted and wasn't included in the work that was there. And in part, what that does though is it restricts the amount of space that they really have to work between this isolated wetland and this garden area here. There's shrubbery in there. There's some perennial plants, as well as there's a Japanese maple that's planted there as well that will be visually pleasing from the certainly from the pool area. So that's the challenge here in this piece of property is how to get the fence that the landowner needs to constrain the dogs and allow them to have free reign of the usable part of their backyard, but at the same time protect this wetland area. And so I think that line has to get moved, number one, to keep it out of that that wetland, the isolated land subject to flooding that's right here, or isolated vegetated wetland is actually what it is. I think that's the single area here. If we can move that line into an area where the landowner is satisfied with the location and we're satisfied with the location, maybe a little bit of both of us unsatisfied with the location, if that makes sense. That I think that probably there's not an issue here for me. I think you've already addressed the 6-inch gap off the floor. From that standpoint, the only issue, hang on just one second. I'm having a little bit of a distraction at my home. And I think the only other thing I do want to say here is that this tree here, this is a tall pine, probably about 50 feet tall. It is dead. There's no vegetation on it any longer. It's just twigs. And so I think that as part of this, so that the applicant doesn't have to come back to us, I think I'd like to include in this notice of intent a discussion about removing that tree. I would prefer to have that get wrapped up here into this. It's easy for us to add in. I believe that within probably about a year, that pine will become a hazard, a wind hazard, and potentially come down and damage, have property damage. And I would prefer not to have that happen. So I would prefer to have us allow them to amend the NOI to include removal of that tree. So that's my own personal standpoint. Especially with a homeowner who's trying to do the right thing here, there's no sense in them having to file another, application for an RDA or anything along those lines. So that's my comments. Any other comments from either? I certainly give Elise and Corey a chance to talk if they wanted to, or any of the commission members.
Yeah, we love, we really appreciate you guys and your patience, Rory. I know you came out on Sunday and really took your time with us, so we really appreciate that. And Andrew and Jennifer, you guys coming out our second day here, and we were a little overwhelmed and shocked, but yeah, we're really proactive people. We bought this property for a reason, and to help conserve it and to make sure we do the right things. Yeah, no, we're totally okay with pulling that fence in front of that tree and bringing it much closer in. We'll make sure we do not mow that area that he mowed. We will not allow that either. We didn't even know that. So we'll make sure that grows back in. Jen, I did send you an email earlier. I'm sure you haven't seen it yet, but if you could send me the list of shrubbery, I want to get on that too and get those taken care of this week for you guys. So those will be all set. We've already reached out about a drywall, so we're working on that for you guys as well to take care of that issue. So we're on it. I promise we are nothing like the last owner. We are here to help. We will have a happy marriage, I promise you. But yeah, we want to keep the dogs out of there for you guys and for our sanity. Like Andrea said, you don't want them back there. We definitely don't want them back there. So we're here to do whatever you guys need. I know you guys are coming, I think, tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. For the review. Okay. The fence company is supposed to be here tomorrow. I lose a deposit of many thousands of dollars if they don't start work, and I know that there was no DEP number. And Roy, I know when we were talking Sunday, you're like, we can talk about it Monday, or we'll see what we do. What do I do?
Yeah, unfortunately, we're going to be unable to issue a permit or a decision at all tonight. First, based upon, I think the plans need to get updated. Secondly is, without a DEP number, there is no way for us to issue a decision at all. We actually can't vote at all. So we couldn't even give you a conditional approval or anything along those lines. Unfortunately, I don't know what fence company you're using. I can assure you the fence guy has plenty of work to do. And pushing you around the schedule, he shouldn't be taking your money for that. That's my own personal opinion. But, I think that, unfortunately, it would be ill-advised, in my opinion, to have them start that work. So, because it's going to be several weeks before you get a permit.
Okay, understood. Okay.
And I think the conversation you'll have out on site with Jen tomorrow will just take care of all the questions and the issues, and get updated on a final plan. We can come in next time, have a very brief discussion about the changes, and then go to a vote. So.
Okay, got it.
And I think the message also here, which I think you've gotten loud and clear so far, is that prior permit that was on the property for the restoration plan, familiarize yourself with that. There's a planting plan. Most of it's been done already. There's a monitoring plan that has annual reports that are due. And like I said, that's all online, and Jen can send you a link, or I can send you a link, whatever works,
Awesome.
where it is, so you can actually pull that down and see what it is, and go to sleep at night reading that. So.
Sounds great.
Any other questions from the commission? Carol?
Andrea, I'd like to know what your new multivitamins are, because you, again, in comment 4, you're like working way out in 29, 21.
I think it has to do with my eyesight also. I don't have I'm using my personal computer. It's not quite as wonderful as the town computer. I can certainly, I actually sent this as a Word document. If Jen takes my same approach of just using this as a base for her revised documents, we'll certainly change that. It was Wednesday of this week that I was out there with Jen.
Oh, I was hoping for a report of what it's like in 29, 21.
Just the other things to the Warners as well is just to you know, the landscape debris that's been put into the protected areas, you need to pull that stuff out, and so find another place for it, as we've mentioned here. So I think we covered everything. Does anybody have any concerns about them taking that tree down? Okay, very good. So just we'll include that in, you know, add that as some note on the plan or something, so that we know that it'll get approved, and we'll make sure.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And of course, you know, you're not required to. I'm just giving you permission to. So you get 3 years to do it what you want with the permit. So, but I assume that at some point in the next 3 years, you're going to want to take that tree down before it falls on your beautiful pool deck. So
100% with you. We really appreciate that.
Okay, so I'm going to make a motion to continue 33 Prospect to, any public comment for 33 Prospect? Sorry, before I get ahead of myself. Seeing none, we're going to make a motion to continue 33.
There's a hand raised.
Oh, there is. Oh, didn't see it.
Didn't I? Oh, no, I don't see it still. Okay, sorry, my mistake.
Okay, that's okay. Make a motion to continue 33 Prospect to August 23rd, 2021.
80 second.
Roll call vote, Caulfield's aye.
Carol, I.
Lundin, aye.
80 aye.
Okay, thank you all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Have a wonderful evening.
Bye-bye.
Have a good night now.
And we'll see you in the morning.
Okay.
Back to Peter Lyons.
The second on that motion, there you go. Ben answered. Okay. We had a question from Tish, but we answered. Peter Lyons this is for 80 Short Street. This is a notice of intent for site restoration and mitigation at 80 Short Street. Collins Engineering is the engineer, and is the applicant here? Do they want to come forward? I don't know if he is or not.
I believe
Yes,
he was
he is.
at one point, yeah.
Jeff is here, number 80. I think this Jeff is adjacent, is in a butter from the attendees.
Yeah, I don't see the applicant himself, so.
Okay.
There's 2 phone calls. Does Peter,
Maybe.
do you recognize the phone call, the phone number?
Are you asking me? I don't recognize any numbers.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, so why don't you take, I will stop my share and you can start yours.
Alrighty. Can we see it?
Absolutely, yeah.
All right. For the record, Peter Lyons with Collins Engineering, representing the homeowner tonight. We're here for a notice of intent for a site restoration and mitigation plan pertaining to the area at the northern portion of the property, which has historically been filled and regraded within the wetland buffer zone. I'll zoom into that area quick. There's kind of a lot going on.
So can we just, I just want to give a little bit of history on this. So this was an enforcement action against the homeowner, because the area that Peter's got in the hashed area here was filled by the landowner, and the fence was relocated, replaced and relocated. So that gives you the perspective of what's going on here. We started talking with the homeowner, the landowner, last fall. And finally, in springtime, we said, file by July or we will start really getting not happy. So they did, and that's where we are. And so Peter, now we've got perspective.
Sure. So what we have tonight, this is a plan of basically our proposed work overlaid onto the current existing plans. So we went out over the summer and we resurveyed basically the entire area north of the house from the existing driveway to out back. What we noted was there's an approximate area of 2,800 square feet. We estimated to be 50 yards plus or minus of gravel driveway material, which had been, brought in as fill right up to the existing wetland line over the years. So basically our proposal is to eliminate all of that. We're proposing to take out any foreign material, including the gravel driveway. There's some other debris and stuff in the area. So we're basically looking to bring it back to its existing vegetated condition. So we'll be sloping off from the existing driveway down towards the wetland. As mentioned, we do show on the plan the existing fence, which is the boulder line at the limit of the gravel, and then the historic fence is shown by the gray dash line that tucks in a little bit tighter to the property. So our proposal is to keep the existing fence where it is and do our mitigation work beyond that. The mitigation includes, as mentioned, the removal of the imported materials, and we'll bring it back to a lower wetland friendly hydric condition. We're proposing a bunch of plantings where it's currently gravel. So the proposed work would be surrounded by erosion control. The trees would be sufficiently protected to avoid any damage during the excavation of materials. Just quick numbers, as mentioned, we got 2,800 square feet. It's approximately 2 feet of material on average that's going to be coming out of this area. So it's not a huge amount, but it's enough to be significant. So we're proposing pretty substantial planting schedules for the mitigation. We're proposing white oaks, high bush blueberries, some inkberry, and a general upland meadow mix that's going to be spread through the entire area. So conservation posts are also being proposed along the existing wetland line and tree line, and those will go right up around the project, including out front along the driveway. So that's basically what we got going on. All of our work really is happening in the hatched area. Access would be through the paved driveway, protected by the erosion control system wrapping around the entire project back up to the existing historic shed location. Any questions? Who wants to start?
So Andrea, staff report?
Yeah, glad to say that this project is not in an ACEC. while you see a clear property line through the work area, you may also recognize that the property on the top of the sheet is owned by the same folks. So there's no question about him working on his own property. I'm seeing that the fence line is closer to the wetland than it was when you last saw the property. So that's your choice, whether you approve it in this location or not. Note that the shed was present when the Conservation Commission of past had done a certificate of compliance here, but the concrete slab wasn't, and the concrete slab, if you want me to annotate that, I can. You see that slab area, that is going to be removed. Yeah, there you go. I think probably the biggest question is that we'd like a little more detail on the restoration plan. This is could be potential vernal pool. They were identified as potential vernal pools right at the toe of this slope. Whether they are or they aren't is whether they would be have enough characteristics to be classified as a certified vernal pool is open to question. One of them certainly may be, the other one not so much. So taking this area back, putting this area back into a native restoration area is in everybody's best interest if you're have a Conservation Commission perspective. But I do think that the Collins Engineering should take a look at the inland wetland replication guidelines. They anticipate there'll be greater density. And we'll probably need to know the kind of soils to make sure that since it's a gravel area, need to make sure that it's going to be augmented to be a good stable foundation for the for these plants to be successful. If you haven't already figured it out, this is really going to be my last meeting. And Jen and I were out at this site together, and I'm sure she can handle the continued hearing on this very well. I did not put conditions in here. I did put some conditions in here, but they're very general. I think, Carol, I'm going to preempt you. I think there's more information needed on the buffer zone restoration.
Thank you. So I think that part of this is that originally our expectation was that the restoration planting would actually have been done by a certified wetland scientist as opposed to an engineer. I'm not saying you guys aren't great engineers. I just think that there was an expectation given the location of this. We're talking about a very sensitive ecological area, 2 potential vernal pools. You're literally up against, in fact, there's probably some fill that is in the wetlands. And so I think we're being kind to say the fill goes up to the wetland line. I think that's being kind. I think there are times where this fill is in the wetlands. There's some debris. I saw a big portion of about an 8 or 10 foot, 18 or 20 inch trunk of a tree that is used as sort of the foundation of some of this fill. So there's some work to be done here. I think that the concept is appropriate, but I think that the details are a little short of what we would need to move forward with this plan. I think we have to be confident that this site is going to return to its prior state and give it every opportunity to do so. There's always the concern when we have a project like this that the success of having it return to its prior state is tenuous sometimes. And so I think we would prefer to see as much detail as possible. We want to know the monitoring plan. You know, we want to know who's going to do that monitoring, those type of things. So, and I think we want to be confident that those things are being done appropriately, and even the installations being monitored by someone. So, I think that those are just some of the information that maybe we really need. I think that when we do the restoration plan, we have to be careful that when we do we have to take care of everything all the way up to the wetland line where you're doing the restoration, not just the area next to the fence. So that to be very clear about that. And I don't think just putting wetland mix down is probably the best thing to do. So those are my comments. Any other comments from the commissioners? Carol?
Thank you for preempting me, Andrea. Yeah, I mean, one of the things I'd like to see is a greater diversity of plants in the planting plan. And Andrea, I have a question about comment 2.
It wasn't there in 2921.
Oh, that's comment 5, yep.
Okay.
Comment 2, the break and slope will then be regraded to a 4-to-1 slope. That's like a side of a volcano. That's 4-to-1 is really steep. And I just want
that 4-to-1 slope. I think you might be. I think that might be a question for Mr. Wayne Tavares. In 34. I'm not seeing 4-to-1 in item number 2 for 80 Short Street. Thanks so much, Peter, for that typical profile. I understand it. So what's that slope, Peter? You can answer that question better than me.
What is the slope?
What do you bring it down? What do you bring it down to?
Well, the intent is to bring it down to existing grade, which really varies. I mean, it looks like we're more proposing like a 10-to-1 from the existing fence area. So, you know, a 4-to-1, you can grow grass and stuff, but I don't know where that comment was coming from. I don't see anything on this plan that proposes a 4-to-1. It's more than double that. So it's not an extreme slope by any means.
Uh, 34 Pequannock, Carol. That's the next project.
Okay, why am I not seeing Short Street?
It came in 10 minutes after the binder. So it was emailed to you.
It was with the
Friday
binder.
afternoon.
I got it with the binder. So.
Okay, got it. My apologies.
Okay. But Wayne's here, so he heard you. He'll be ready.
Yeah.
Anything else, Carol?
No, thank you.
Any other comments from the commission? What are the thoughts from the commission about leaving the fence where it is as opposed to asking him to relocate it to its original position? Anyone?
There's benefit of less disturbance, but I'm not sure if that's a great deal.
The other, yeah, I mean, it's one or the other, you know, and I think we're talking about, it's probably about a 3 or 4 foot difference at the rear. So I'm not sure that it's going to make that big a difference. But the one thing that I do want to make sure here, the applicant understands that this restoration is meant to be a permanent restoration, and this will be restored to its proper buffer zone function, and not to be used to traverse back to any sort of storage area in the back or whatnot. That area is not something that can be utilized in that manner anymore. But one thing I do want to say here is that it wasn't all fill. The area that is around the tree that's located right next to WHA7 actually had material excavated. So it actually has some exposed roots there. As well, it was about 2 feet the other way. There, it was a high spot that they took out so they could level it off to where they could store material. So I don't know if something's being done to protect the root system of that plant, of that tree, so that it survives the next 30 or 40 years. So that may be something that we want to consider restoration in the opposite sense right there. I assume I wasn't the only one who noticed that. So, I think that I don't know if it's better to leave it as is or to simply have some mechanism to protect it. Jen or Andrea, you have a better sense than me.
Jen, do you have an opinion?
You probably want the roots to be protected.
Okay, so I would take that back as part of your work here, Peter, as well as any vegetation that had exposed roots we should have some plan to protect those and restore them.
Okay.
Any other comments from the commission? Carol?
Thank you. I'd like to see on the plan a illustration and description of best planting practices when it comes to the installation of these plantings. Because we've seen instances of, root balls going into holes that are exactly the size of the root balls. And, we want to get off to a good start here.
Yeah, I mean, Peter, that goes to my comment earlier that normally with a restoration plan of this type, that we'd see the actual wetland scientists monitoring this, the installations. So typically that's what we see. So I mean, I think if we had, I think there was an expectation of a greater sense of detail about the restoration than we received, and you may want to try and figure that out.
Okay.
I agree with you, Carol. Any public comment for 80 Short Street? Raise your hand. I know we have Mr. Hurdle who's present. I don't know who that is. I don't know if you wanted to. Okay.
Mr. Hurdle seems to be trying to talk.
Yeah, can you hear me?
We
There you
certainly
go.
can, yeah.
Hi, Jeff Earl, 77 Short Street. I live right straight across the street, and I've been watching the destruction for like a year now, and I am so glad you guys are doing something about it. I want to say thank you.
You're welcome.
So this will be continued, and you guys are going to just keep on it, right?
Oh, absolutely. I can assure you, we are on this. We've been on it for months. So
Okay. I've been here for over 25 years, and I've enjoyed what happens across the street in the springtime. So,
yep, we're looking to ensure that continues to happen for the next 25.
thank you.
You're welcome.
I'll be watching you guys.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Okay, any further public comment for 80 Short Street? Okay, so Peter, just even with the fact that we have a no DA number, we'd be continuing anyway, but do you have any questions for us, Peter? You got enough information from us?
I think I have plenty. Yeah.
Okay, so make a motion that, will you be ready at the next meeting? I assume you will.
We can be ready Yeah, with, well, I
It's
don't
3
know,
weeks.
honestly, if we have to get, the wetland scientist involved, you know, she's
why
gonna
don't
have to visit the site and, you know, that's gonna take some time, so.
Yeah, so let's put it on the agenda for 8:23, and that way, if you can make it, you can. If not, just give us a heads up ahead of time. We'll move it out to the next meeting. Okay.
Can I ask, Mr. Chairman, how much time you want to give the agent to review the material?
So you need to give, well, the agent, how much time would you like to review? Jen?
At least a week would be great.
Okay, so we need the material at least by 8:16, preferably earlier than that. Okay? So we'll make a motion to continue to 8:23, 2021, you know, contingent upon Jen getting the material at least prior to 8:16. I need a second.
Spady, second.
Roll call vote, Caulfield's aye.
Carol, I.
Lundin, aye.
Spady, aye.
Okay, thank you, Peter.
All right, I think I have a couple of certificate of compliance later. Do I gotta stick around for those?
Let me just look at all of these
So
and
65 Union, Meeting House, and Blackbrook, I saw them as all pretty straightforward.
there will be no questions about any of those, Peter.
Okay. We're all set. I'll sign out. Leave you to the next one.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Have a good night.
I'm going to bring Mr. Tavares up for the next meeting.
Right, so the next hearing here is 34 Pequannock Ave. This is a notice of intent for wetland restoration and mitigation. Again, this is another enforcement action that we had in front of us.
So I told Mr. Tavares that he should be present by 7:15 because, you know, everything would go so quickly.
It actually has gone fairly quickly, considering. Mr. Tavares, you can take yourself off mute, turn on your video. Does he have anybody else with him?
Didn't recognize.
Oh, that's very staticky.
And the telephone numbers are gone, so Mr. Tavares, you can call in if you need better reception. The phone number is on the agenda. I could read off one of them if you need it.
Okay, I guess that's what I'll have to do. Sure.
Yeah, he said yes to that.
Yes.
Okay. Why don't we go with the first one then? Do you have your phone ready?
Yeah.
It's 1-301-715-8592. Next attendee with a phone number, I guess we don't need to promote a phone number.
Hello?
Wayne, you have my cell phone number if you want to text me.
I need a meeting ID.
Meeting ID.
827-657-6723.
Hello?
Sorry about this, everybody.
Hello? Can you
There
hear
we
me?
go. Hang on a sec. We see your number now.
Okay, great. And can you see me?
So we actually can't see you, but I'm going to,
Allow him to talk.
yeah. So you should be able to unmute yourself.
I think where's the phone number, the host may have to unmute him.
Yeah, I'm co-hosting. I'm not able to unmute him.
Okay.
Ben, can I make you co-host? See if you have any greater luck?
Absolutely. It'd be an honor.
Yeah, but I can't. Tish has to do it. Tish. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'm now co-host and my bright idea isn't working.
Sounded so confident, though.
Hi. Can you see me?
We cannot see you. We can hear you through a whole bunch of static on your regular video call, but you have to unmute yourself on your phone.
It says to do *6 to unmute, and it won't do that.
So do you want to try and have you successfully done a Zoom call recently with your computer?
Yes, no, I do these all the time on a regular basis.
So do you want to try and disconnect and reconnect on the Zoom to see if that solves whatever connection problems you're having?
Yeah, I'll leave. I'll come back. Thanks for your patience.
If that doesn't work, Rory, another good suggestion was that he call my cell. And then I put him on speaker.
Maybe, we'll see. Super tech support here will there you
completely.
there you go. You want to try and unmute yourself, Mr. Tavares? You just need to unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
No, it's all static.
I'm still on the line.
We can see you now.
Well, I'd rather have you hear me.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do. I'm looking at all the
So why don't we try this? And I'm going to have to be a little bit careful about this, not to have any open meeting issues here as far as people being able to hear you. So you have Andrea's cell phone number. If you call Andrea, she'll try and put you on speakerphone and see if we can hear you enough at that point. How's that?
Okay, fine. Andrea, you want to give me your phone number?
It was the number you called this afternoon.
If I still have it. So, let me see.
As a retired employee, I don't really want to put it on the public hearing.
I'm gonna guess.
Okay. You got it. Okay, I've got all good here.
We can't hear him.
Can't?
No. No.
How about now?
No, unfortunately.
I'd say that that's just not sufficient enough for us to do this. So
Andrew, is your phone on speaker?
I've got my phone on maximum volume, and I've got my speakers on maximum volume.
Really?
So the only thing I can think of to do here is to let's
Oh, how about now? How about now? How about now?
no,
It's like a faint
total
whisper.
static. All I can think of is to proceed with the other things on our agenda and come back to Mr. Tavares, see if he can figure out what the technical issues are on his end, maybe by doing a test call with somebody else or something, and then we can come back to it.
How about this? It
Mr. Tavares, if you have a pair of headphones, sometimes that will solve the situation. If you have headphones with a microphone jack.
Did you hear Ben? Commissioner Carroll suggested.
you very well.
Okay, so Commissioner Carroll just suggested that perhaps you might want to use a microphone, headphones.
I don't have.
Oh, okay.
The only other thing that I would suggest that you do is perhaps to power down your computer, power it back up, and log back in, and then connect again. So why don't we check back with you in about 10 minutes, 15 minutes when we get through the certificates of compliance that we have on our agenda. We can clear those off the agenda and then come back to you. I think that's, so maybe you could power down your computer, power it back up, and then log back in again, try and connect again. Sometimes, the power off, power on thing works, so.
All right, I'll give it a shot.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Tavares.
Commissioner Lundin. So you have a motion to recess for 5 minutes?
Yes,
So is that your motion?
yes.
Second. We will roll call vote. Caulfield's aye.
Carol, aye.
Lundin, aye.
Spady, aye.
So we will reconvene at 8:27 p.m. You can turn off your video and microphone while you step away for a moment. Thank you, Carol. Yeah, no, it's still the same.
I apologize. I can't figure it.
Yeah,
Oh. Yes, can you hear me?
Mr. Chairman, can you hear Mr. Tavares?
I can, let me try that again. The problem is with speakers and everything else, it's hard to have a phone and video on at the same time. I mean, Mr. Tavares, he turned the speakers down all the way.
How is this? Is this better?
I mean, it's marginally better, but still not something I could allow a hearing to move forward with.
I've tested my audio settings are okay. Original sound, I'm on echo cancellation, high fidelity. I've tested my speakers. There's nothing else I can do. I've obviously got something wrong here. I've got some direction from the commission. Unfortunately, I'd like to continue to the 23rd, and I'll make those changes that were recommended. I have no option to defend this. I am trying to defend the issue, but I cannot. Whatever the suggestion of the commission, as far as my client.
So here's the thing. So I'm not even. I'm actually gonna. Yeah. So I'm not even gonna open the hearing because I don't think that we can open the hearing. I think just as a point of information, not as any sort of discussion or anything about the hearing. So there is a staff report. It's a good starting point. I think that we can, go with that. We'll continue to the 23rd. Hopefully by then the technical issues are resolved. And I would actually, suggest that you reach out to the environmental planner, Jennifer Carlino, and have a discussion with her to make sure that she, you and she are on board and on the same page before the next meeting, and maybe we can get it done. So that's the only thing I would suggest.
Okay, I apologize for wasting your time.
No, I appreciate you trying to work through it. So, appreciate you having patience with us as we try to get it to work. So.
All right, so we're going to continue now. Speak with Jennifer.
Absolutely, Jennifer. Yep. So I'm going to make a motion to continue 34 Pequannock Ave to August 23rd.
Lundin, second.
Roll call vote. Caulfield's aye.
Carol, aye.
Lundin, aye.
Katie, aye.
Okay. Sorry, Mr. Tavares. Okay, so next up is 863 Washington Street. This was a certificate of compliance that we had before us at our last meeting that we continued because we asked the applicant to make some grading changes and take some debris out of the area, the reseeding area that had happened. So is the applicant here? I think Matt Churchill might be involved in that. Is Stephanie Hoban part of that too?
Hi, can you hear me?
Hi, Sandra, yeah.
Yes. I'm here. I don't know if Matt can unmute his computer. He's on, but he can't figure out.
He's,
how to unmute it.
I'm promoting both Matt Churchill from attendee to panelist. That'll give him ability.
All right, thank you.
So I hope we can make this very brief. So I don't think we need any presentation. I think both probably, there were at least 3 of us out on the site this week, Jennifer, Andrea, and myself probably. I don't know if anyone else was out, but I think from that standpoint, we had reviewed the site and found it to be substantially in compliance. The material, it had been pulled back. A little rock retaining wall, just sort of as a delineator, is there now, but the extra material had been pulled back, had been actually put in new loam and had been seeded. When I was there on Saturday, which is actually, or Sunday, which was actually a few days after Andrea and Jennifer was there, I'm sure the grass grew in that time. It was being properly maintained by the landowner, and the grass seed had already sprouted. It was a good inch and a half tall, so it was already going like gangbusters. So I'm inclined to issue a certificate of compliance unless anyone has any objections. You're on mute. Yep.
Yep. Sorry, say that again. The grass was, the seed was put down when? Do we know?
I don't know when it was put down. It was already growing.
A week ago Friday.
It was put down a week ago Friday. Right.
The phrase is substantially in compliance.
Right. And I'm sorry, was that a seed mix of different?
No, it's just regular grass seed. This is the front lawn.
Sorry, that's my dog. Over here. Okay, over here. Sit. Quiet. Thank you. Thanks for protecting me. Okay, that sounds good. Thank you.
Any comments from the commission? You don't mind if I skip the staff report on this?
The perpetual condition is number 36.
Thank you. Any public comment for 863 Washington Street? Does the applicant have any questions for us? I know you've hung on here for 2 hours, so I want to give you, if you have any questions, I really don't need any presentations or anything. We're good where we are.
I have no questions.
No questions from me.
Okay, make a motion to issue a certificate of compliance for 863 Washington Street, noting perpetual condition number 36, no dumping in the wetlands is a perpetual condition.
Spady, second.
Roll call vote, Caulfield's aye.
Carol, I.
Lundin, aye.
Spady, aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. 65 Union Street, this is a request for certificate of compliance. And this was a septic system. If someone needs this to report, I'm happy to put them up, or the plans. I have them here, of course, because that's how I roll.
Everything was substantially compliant, and the grass is growing and it's well stabilized.
Yeah, just the only yeah, it's very well stabilized, and it just is a reminder, just to that they were to let the and it didn't look mowed to me. So I mean, it was a good foot high. So that they're supposed to let that area beyond that that conservation post to grow. So just as a reminder on the record that I'll probably put it in the certificate of compliance. So it's a perpetual condition. Any questions from the commission? Sorry. Okay, so any public comment? 65 Union Street. So I make a motion to issue a certificate of compliance for 65 Union Street, noting a special condition number 43, no dumping in the wetlands is a perpetual condition, as well as the vegetation beyond the conservation post. And I've just got to get to my orientation here. In the southwest corner is to be left to grow naturally as a perpetual. That's okay. Spady, a second. Roll call vote, Caulfield's aye.
Carol, I.
Lundin, aye.
Spady, aye.
Thank you. Next up is 12 Meeting House Lane. This is another request for certificate of compliance. Again, for a septic system. And again, if anyone needs to see the plans, I'm happy to move them.
And the same situation, Collins waited until the area was stabilized with vegetation before submitting the request.
This backyard looks better than it looked before. I just want to say. So this was one of those cases where it was an old lawn that really needed some attention, and actually coming into a septic system gave them a better lawn after the fact. So, so any questions from the commission? Any public comment? 12 Meeting House Lane. Seeing none, make a motion to issue a certificate of compliance for 12 Meeting House Lane, noting
36.
Special condition number 36, no dumping in the wetlands is identified as a perpetual condition. I need a second.
Spady, second.
Roll call vote, Caulfield's aye.
Carol, I.
Lundin, aye.
Spady, aye.
Great, so next up is 84 Black Book Road is another request for certificate of compliance on a septic system. Again, I can bring up the plans if anyone needs them, but Andrea, substantially in compliance.
With permanent condition number 37, no dumping in wetlands.
Anybody have any questions? Another lawn that looked very good. So, any public comment for 84 Blackbrook Road? Make a motion to issue a certificate of compliance for 84 Blackbook Road, noting a special condition number 37, no dumping in the wetlands is a perpetual condition.
Spady, second.
Roll call vote, Caulfield's aye.
Carol, I.
Lundin, aye.
Spady, aye.
Okay, next up is 236 Prospect Street. This is a request for certificate of compliance. Again, for a septic system.
This is over, 236 Prospect was just recently approved in December 2020. Everything is substantially compliant and stable. There was some more landscape shrubs taken from the property that turned into lawn, but it's one or the other. There is a fence line that is still present in part within the wetland. And the condition was when you go to relocate, when you go to replace it farther back from the wetland. You probably want to keep that condition in place. It's not perpetual, it's when the fence is replaced. That's special condition 2. The silt sock needs to be removed as well.
Any questions? This was that property where they had started to do the work before they even got to us, right? They started doing some.
Put the erosion control in.
Right. Any questions for anybody? Any public comment for 236 Prospect Street? Seeing none, make a motion to issue a certificate of compliance for 236 Prospect Street, noting special condition number 37, no dumping in the wetlands is a perpetual condition. And also we continue special condition number 2, noting when the fence is replaced, it should be located outside the wetland. It should also be noted that the silt sock needs to be removed.
80 a second.
Roll call vote, Caulfield's aye.
Carol, I.
Lundin, aye.
80 aye.
Okay, we are now up to some environmental planner items. Modification for 181 Howard Street, minor mod.
181 Howard Street was approved in May for less than what was originally proposed. The pool went away and the fence stayed. What they're requesting now is that the vinyl fence that was originally proposed along the entire lawn area be replaced with a chain link fence on the section of backyard that's running parallel to the house, parallel to Howard Street, so the farthest from the house. They are asking to realign it, make it a little straighter. This is a fence line that's within a couple inches of the wetland line. Where they're asking to realign it is not wetland. They do have an erosion control proposed for the fence, which, is questionable if needed. The permanent markers were to put the medallions on every third post of the fence. It does sound like a minor mod to me.
I would agree. I have no question. Any questions from the commission?
I read that and I had no issues with what they were asking for.
No, and then, to be honest, I appreciate them coming back and asking the question. So, I mean, this is another homeowner that has maybe seen the light a little bit about what needs to be done in their property. So I appreciate that.
There is a hand raised, Stephanie Hoban from the attendees.
Sure. I will bring her forward. Okay, Stephanie, you're now available. You can take yourself off mute.
I was actually just saying I was here if you had any questions.
No.
Thank you. The play area too will be inside the fence line, but it's impervious.
So no questions from me. Any questions? So you need a vote from us that this is a minor mod.
Please.
I make a motion that the changes proposed for 181 Howard Street qualify as a minor modification.
Spady, second.
Roll call vote. Caulfield's aye.
Carol, aye.
Lundy, aye.
Spady, aye.
Thank you. Thanks for waiting too. The next one is going to be continued at the request of the applicant. I know they had gotten some feedback from the agent on this one. There's another lot in Goodspeed Estates that wants to change the house layout and results in some change in impervious cover. So they got some feedback from in the staff report, or not from the staff report, in an email. So they're working on that, and they didn't have enough time to do it prior to the meeting, so they've asked for a continuance to August 23rd. So make a motion. Well, we'll make a motion to. We don't have to make a motion because it's not it. So we'll talk about it. Thank you. There you go. I am loath to say this, but I did not read the minutes. So, did someone else read the minutes? I can't believe you guys leave it to me every single time.
You're just so good at it.
I did read the minutes, but I didn't read them word for word. And with all this talk about vitamins, I'm a little worried.
Well, she can't comment if she didn't read it. So, Ben, if you read them and they're okay, I'm happy to accept the motion.
Yeah, I read them and they were okay, but I didn't go word for word. But yes.
Okay, so I will make a motion to accept the minutes for July 12th, 2021.
Carol, second.
Roll call vote. Caulfield's aye.
Carol, aye.
Lundin, aye.
Spady, aye.
Okay, another discussion from the environmental planner.
Oh, that wasn't me. I thought that was off the agenda. Do you have anything to say, Jen?
We haven't had a chance to talk about that internally yet.
Yeah, it got raised at some conversation that that we had. I don't remember what it was. And I know Stephanie was involved, so I don't remember. Actually, I remember what the conversation is now, but had something to do with a different project. So, and so, okay, you guys discuss it and come back to us. Anything else I should have anticipated and that I didn't, and it needs to be discussed? Okay, I feel badly for Mr. Tavares. It really wasn't anything I could do there. I couldn't move forward with that kind of quality. It just wouldn't have been fair to the public. So let alone us. So 2 hours is tough already without it being static. So okay, so we went to 2 hours and 18 minutes, which good job, everybody. So so I appreciate it. Motion to adjourn. Oh, hang on a second. Well, we can stay on. But motion to adjourn.
I was waiting for someone to say something. I'm saying it all night. Come on.
Carol, second.
Roll call vote. Caulfield's aye.
Carol, I.
Lundin, aye.
ADI.
So now that the meeting is closed, Andrea.
Nothing. I was saying goodbye.
I know, but I was saying, luckily, I still have your cell phone number.
Yes. So we're not going to do this for a third meeting in a row. You guys are going to be really in good shape with Jen. I'm going to spend more time at the beach. You'll see me.
Yeah.
You will see me for one particular project that's pretty complicated. And other than that, Jen has my cell phone number too. So go forth and prosper.
Yeah, I mean, Jen didn't get to introduce herself much at all, but she certainly comes to us with a wealth of experience. 20 years in Norton. She is a well-known entity in the conservation world, professional world. So I appreciate having her here, and really look forward to more interactions with her. I've already had some interactions with her, and they've been outstanding. So I'm really looking forward to that continuing. So Jen, you have my number. So if you ever need something from me or email me, Andrea's probably told you, if you email me, I usually get back to you within an hour or so. So I'm usually pretty prompt. So
yep.
And,
great. Thank you. Thank you, Andrea.
Yeah. I'm sure you'll do. She's not going to say it herself. She's more than 20 years in Norton. She's got a lot of statewide experience.
I was just trying to be kind to not, add not years onto her age here. She would have had to start when she was 8 years old or something. Yeah. Okay, we are actually done. We have exceeded our time, and I appreciate everyone's time. And we'll see you on the 23rd, and maybe I'll read the minutes before the next one. So.
Great. Good night. Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Buddy.
Bye-bye.